Hi guys, Tracy here. This video is going to be a quick video about Stampin' Up! Inks. This is a response to a question I got from Tracy. Hi Tracy! And sometimes I get a question that just I really want to answer, and this was one of them. So she asked me what I think about Stampin' Up! Inks, whether I like them or not, and which colors I would recommend. And I do use Stampin' Up! Inks quite a lot, and I love them. I have found that the colored Stampin' Up! Inks are probably the crispest dye inks that I've been able to find. They stamp a really crisp, sharp image compared to any other dye inks. Now, chalk inks will give you a nice crisp image as well, but I really like the look of a dye ink, so I really love them. The other thing that I really love about the Stampin' Up! Inks is that they come, like, you can buy these markers that coordinate with them, so every color of ink pad also has a marker, and the markers have a fine point for writing or journaling or outlining, and then they have a brush point for coloring things in. And I use these to color wood veneers and all sorts of things, and you can also color them right on your stamp, so I can show you that after. Because first I'm going to talk about the inks. So I tried to get it down to my top 6. Well, okay, I tried to get it down to my top 5 and I just couldn't, so I got it down to my top 6 favorite colors from Stampin' Up! Inks, and then I have an honorary mention of a 7th, and then I have some runners up as well, so it's really hard to narrow it down. But before I get to that, I don't have a lot of samples of ink stamps, like ink stamped out, but when I first got my shadow inks by Hero Arts, they look like this. I wanted to kind of know which colors I have, and so I stamped them all out here, along here. These are all the colors that I have in the Hero Arts inks. This is VersaFine, which is the crispest black ink that I've been able to find. Sorry for my nails, guys. I was about to do my nails and then I got a question from Tracy, so I ran down here. You will notice that the shadow inks are not as good are not nearly as crisp as the VersaFine. So this is Pool, this is Tide Pool, that's another version. I kept trying to stamp it clearer, and then look, this one is crisp again. You know why? Because that's a Stampin' Up! Ink. that's Island Indigo. And then we're back to the shadow inks, which are not very crisp and not very crisp. And that one is hard to tell because it's so soft, but it's also not very crisp. And so this is what I have found most of the dye inks look like when you stamp them, including the Jenny Bolin ones, and I can't remember the brand of the other one. I actually threw away another bunch of inks because I can't remember the brand of them. Darn it. Admittedly, I haven't tried every single kind of ink, so there might be other ones out there that are just as good as Stampin' Up, but I found these and so I'm sticking with them, and this is how crisp they stamp in comparison to some of those other ones. So these center 2 are from Stampin' Up, and there's what the words look like, and that's comparative with the shadow inks. And people say that the shadow inks get crisper as they dry, but I stamped this about a year ago and it's not any crisper, so it's definitely dry, and it's not nearly as crisp as the Stampin' Up! One. So the purpose of this video is not to compare Stampin' Up! Inks to other inks, but I just wanted to kind of mention that it is a very crisp ink compared to some of the other ones out there. So I'm going to be sampling my favorite colors for Tracy and for you guys, and in between I'm going to be cleaning my stamps. I do have the Stampin' Up! Stampin' Scrub. I'm not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. It might sound like I am right now because I'm speaking very highly of their products. I used to be a demonstrator, but I'm not anymore. I was a demonstrator very briefly. So, and it allowed me to get a lot of, stock up on a lot of supplies actually, so it was quite nice. But it wasn't for me. Now, where's my paper? I have a piece of paper here somewhere. Here it is. And I always stamp on a piece of foam. It's like a mouse pad. I don't know where I got this. I think this came in some packaging of something. And it's just like a piece of pretty dense foam. And I find it, but you could use a mouse pad, and it just provides just the right amount of give. As sometimes when you stamp on a flat surface, the center part of your stamp doesn't come out entirely, so this just makes sure that you get a nice crisp stamp every single time. So I'm going to talk about my top 6 colors, and then I'll tell you my honorable mention, and then I will tell you the other colors that I would suggest. So first of all, I think it's really important to have a red ink, a really good red ink, and the Stampin' Up! Real Red is really, really nice red ink. So I'm going to show you this. This is one of their newer pads. I had a Real Red, one of their old pads, and I actually replaced it because I used it so much and it got glitter on it, and so I just replaced the ink pad. So the new ink pads look like this. They're shiny and they're foam. I don't know if you can tell. I think it's been about a year they've been making their ink pads like this. And so I have some of the old pads and some of the new pads, and the old pads you really they're fabric and you really have to press really hard to get your stamp really juicy filled with ink. But for these, you have to press very softly, and if you press too hard, you'll have too much ink, and the ink will go over the ridges of the stamp, and then when you stamp it, it will spread out and it will give you an uncrisp image. So you definitely want to go very lightly. In fact, I find that the weight of my clear block is enough. So I actually don't press on it at all. I just kind of drop it on, and then look, see, that didn't really fill in the heart. So I'm gonna kind of dab it, but I'm dabbing it, but I'm not pressing. I'm just kind of going like that. And now you'll see that is very filled up with ink. You can see the ink kind of pooling up on it. This is a very juicy brand new pad because I just replaced my old pad. So I'm going to show you how this stamps. And sometimes a very juicy ink will not give a crisp image until it loses some of its juiciness. So that's what the Stampin' Up! Real Red looks like. It's just dark enough to be a nice dark red, but it's not so dark to look burgundy. It's a nice bright red. So I'm going to clean my stamp in between, obviously. So I'll put away Real Red. So Real Red is my top pick. Island Indigo is my next pick because it is my favorite blue. This is actually the blue that made me like blue, because I was not a fan of blue. And this is what the old ink pads look like. They're a fabric. They're still foam underneath. I think it's actually felt underneath with the fabric kind of top over it. This one is definitely not juicy. In fact, this one is probably due for re-inking. And when you buy Stampin' Up! Inks, I would recommend that you get yourself some refills, because they're just cheap and they last forever, it seems. Although the ink pads last forever too, it seems. I haven't had to re-ink many of mine, but I'm getting to the point where I have to. So here's something that I learned when I was a demonstrator, is that this one is really full of ink right now. You can tell that it's fully covered every part of the stamp. But one of the things that I learned when I was a demonstrator is that it's a good idea to kind of rub it and then dab it, because the rubbing it makes sure that you get ink all over everything, and then the dabbing it makes sure that you don't get those sketchy lines that rubbing it gets. Only with the old pads. I wouldn't do that with the new pads, or you'll make a mess. So this is Island Indigo. Look at how pretty that is. That is the prettiest color of blue. I love it. So let me see if I have an Island Indigo marker. I do. This one is Real Red. Oops. So that's my second pick. Did I wash this yet? I don't remember. Okay. My third pick is Pear Pizzazz. This was a hard one because there's another green that I really love too. But I find the Pear Pizzazz is a really nice medium green. I have this in the old ink pad type. So there you go, Pear Pizzazz. I'm pretty sure Pear Pizzazz is a permanent color now. When I bought it, it was an in color. And I remember being very happy that it was now a permanent color, so I'm pretty sure. I don't have the Pear Pizzazz marker, actually. Wild Wasabi and Gumball Green. Yeah, I don't have the Pear Pizzazz marker. So I'm just going to write Pear Pizzazz. That's a lot of Zs. Pear Pizzazz is my third choice. Pool Party is my fourth choice, and it's another blue. I have this one in the old type of ink pad as well. And it's a very light ink, very pretty. And I will just mention that Pool Party is very similar to Coastal Cabana. In fact, I'll show you how close it is. And I have Coastal Cabana in the new type of ink pad. It's a new ink. They revamped their colors. So, there you go. So Coastal Cabana is just a tiny, tiny bit darker than Pool Party. It's also a lovely color. But if you're, you know, when it comes to picking your first colors, you don't want to necessarily get two colors that are so close together. So I would pick either of these as my pick, Pool Party or Coastal Cabana. I personally prefer Pool Party. And let's see, what's my next? I love yellow. Yellow is one of my daughter's favorite colors, and so I need to have a yellow. This one is called Daffodil Delight. Oh, I better write Coastal Cabana on there. Are there two N's? Nope. So here's the Daffodil Delight, and you see I'm rubbing it and then I'm daubing it. There we go. And again, it's just a nice medium yellow. It's very true. It's kind of like the Real Red is a very true red, and the Daffodil Delight is a true yellow. Very pretty. So I guess if you were looking for 5 colors, those would be my top 5 colors. Oh, you can't see those. Those would be my top 5 colors, so, oops. Real Red, Island Indigo, Pear Pizzazz, Pool Party, and Daffodil Delight. And here they are stamped out. Oops. Daffodil Delight. I really love Stampin' Up's Basic Gray color as well. It is a nice medium toned gray. So I'm going to show you what that looks like too, and this is my 6th pick. So I know grays are kind of neutral and boring, but, oh, and it looks like my ink pad needs to be re-inked. See how it didn't stamp a solid heart? It kind of looks like a dotted heart as compared to these other ones that are nice and solid. That means it needs to be re-inked. Or else maybe I just didn't gather up enough ink on it. I wasn't really paying attention, so I'll have to re-ink that one. So these are my top 6 choices right here, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my other favorite inks. So I've already mentioned Coastal Cabana is really similar to Pool Party, and then on the other side of Pool Party, actually on the other side of Coastal Cabana, is this one, which is even darker. So Pool Party is the lightest, Coastal Cabana is the darkest, and Pool Party is the lightest, Coastal Cabana is medium, and Bermuda Bay is the darkest of these kind of oceany, bluey, greeny colors, maybe turquoise or aqua. So I'll stamp this one under here. Beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? That is gorgeous. Bermuda Bay. So it is sometimes nice to have variations on the same color, so getting a Pool Party and then having Bermuda Bay to be able to like maybe do an outline in Bermuda Bay and a shading in with Pool Party, or just to kind of coordinate the two. They look really nice. These three all look really nice together. So I'm going to clean that stamp. So that is Bermuda Bay. Those three sort of go together, so I'm going to put them together like that. Can you see that? There. Now, on to the greens, because holy Lord, it's hard to pick a green. This is the green that I would probably pick as my next favorite, and it is called Pistachio Pudding. I have it in the new ink pad because it is a new color. In fact, this might be an in color. Let me check. Yeah, it is an in color, so that means it's only available this year and next. So it is a lighter pistachio, what? Pistachio pudding. Okay. So there it is compared to Pear Pizzazz. It is lighter. It hasn't quite spread out on my paper yet, but it is kind of a lighter, softer green than the Pear Pizzazz. And then Gumball Green is kind of like a nice dark grass green. So if you're ever looking for a green to stamp or color in grass or leaves, this is your color. It's really pretty. It's very vibrant compared to the other two, so it's kind of more along the lines of Real Red, Daffodil Delight, and Gumball Green kind of go together because they're kind of primaries, and these other ones are softer colors. So Gumball Green is awesome. I also had Lucky Limeade pulled out because that's one of my favorite greens too. I'm a huge green lover, so I say pile up on the greens. They're awesome. I have Lucky Limeade in the old kind of... Actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't show you Lucky Limeade because I don't think you can buy it anymore. It was an in color. I don't know what year it was an in color, so sorry if you can't buy this anymore, but it is also one of my favorites. And it's just a little bit lighter than the Gumball and still a grassy green. Has a bit more yellow, it's a bit warmer. Yellow undertones compared to the Gumball. I should label those. So this one is Gumball. And this is, what's it called? Lucky Limeade. So these are my very favorite colors. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I narrowed it down to my top 11, but really these are my top 5 colors, and then basic gray is another good one to have. And then the others are all just gravy. Okay. Before I go, I want to show you 2 more colors that are really great to have. Crumb Cake is Stampin' Up's version of Craft. And you know, it's really nice to have a craft colored ink because it looks really nice when you stamp tone on tone. So this stamped on craft cardstock looks really sharp. Let me find a piece to show you. Here is a piece of craft cardstock. And I just think that looks amazing. And this is Stampin' Up craft cardstock, so it looks a little bit, it's a little bit softer than other brands of craft, but I just love that. Tone on tone, craft on craft. Love it. Tone on tone look. Okay, last one that I want to show you is Night of Navy. This is Crumb Cake that I just did. And now let's do Night of Navy. I have it, it's new, the new kind. Did I clean this? Okay. Oh, that's so pretty. I love navy blue. And I'm done with that now. Actually, I'm not. That one is Night of Navy. And look at how pretty that is. And so crisp. That's awesome. I love navy. Okay, one more thing that I want to show you is just how you can use the markers with a stamp. I do not recommend the black ink from Stampin' Up. I much more recommend the VersaFine. The black ink from Stampin' Up, I think they're just having a hard time getting their formulation right. It always stamps like a purpley, inky color. And so I wouldn't recommend getting their black ink, but their grays are nice. I do have their black marker just for this very reason, what I'm going to show you right now. So you can use these markers to color in a stamp. So I want the L, V, and E to be black, and then I want the heart to be red. So I have my basic black, is that what it's called? Yes, basic black Stampin' Up marker. And when you use these markers, you don't want to use them straight down like this. You want to use the edge of it so that you're kind of coloring it in like that. So I'm going to color in the L, and then I'm going to color in the V. I'm going to avoid that heart and get every little part of the V. And you don't have to rush this. You don't have to think, oh my god, it's going to dry before I get a chance to stamp it. I'm actually going to do 2 coats just because I'm always paranoid that I'm going to miss a little part of it, and if I do the whole thing twice, my chances of missing the same thing twice are slimmer than if I only did it once. So I'm going to do it twice, just to make sure there's plenty of ink on there and it's all spread out properly. So you don't have to worry about that ink drying because we're going to huff on it before we stamp it. So now I'm using my real red marker and I'm going to color in that heart. And I'm just going to be careful not to touch the black because I don't want to cross-contaminate my marker. I don't want to pick up any black with this marker because then the next time I use it, I might get black on whatever I'm doing. So there. So it looks like it's all filled in. I'm going to fill it in again because I'm like that. There we go. It doesn't matter really that you've got the swirls because when you press down on it, all those swirls, they even out. So it's nice and juicy, you can tell because it's reflecting. I'm gonna huff on it because some of the black ink is probably dry. So I'm gonna just go to moisten everything up, and look at that. Isn't that pretty? I really love that look. So I do need this again. Okay. So to summarize, my top 5 colors for Stampin' Up are Real Red, Island Indigo, Pear Pizzazz, Pool Party, and Daffodil Delight. My favorite basic color is Basic Gray, although this one didn't stamp all that well because I need to re-ink it. Then I also shared with you guys a couple of variations of these colors that look lovely, like Pistachio Pudding is a super duper soft color compared to Pear Pizzazz, and then Gumball Green is a super strong, vibrant green, and then Lucky Limeade is a warmer, vibrant green. Both of these are kind of grassy looking, and these are soft, mossy looking greens. Pool Party, which was one of my top picks, is very close to Coastal Cabana. Those two are very, very similar, so I wouldn't recommend you getting them both unless if you're trying to get the entire spectrum of colors. And then Bermuda Bay does coordinate quite nicely with either one of those. I also shared with you guys Crumb Cake, which is a nice craft colored ink, which is awesome to have. I don't know of many other manufacturers or any other manufacturers who make craft colored ink that actually looks craft colored. Night of Navy is just a really nice, crisp, beautiful navy blue, which is good to have because so many of our scrapbooking paper collections feature navy these days, so it's good to have a nice navy ink. It can replace your black, like you can do all your sentiments or your stamping in navy instead of black. And then having the markers is nice because it allows you to do multiple colors on one stamp. That's not the nicest, that didn't turn out the nicest. It's not the nicest sample of that technique, but you get the drift. If you practiced it and, you know, really filled up that red heart with lots and lots of ink, then it wouldn't have the smears in it like that. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that this has been helpful for Tracy and maybe for some other people as well. Basically, I do highly recommend Stampin' Up inks. They're great. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't sell these things. So if you're looking for a Stampin' Up demonstrator, you can go to the Stampin' Up website, which is stampinup.com. And if you're in Canada, they've got a Canadian website. I think you just have to click on the Go to Canada. They pick up your IP address and it's easy to get to the Canadian website. And you need to look for a demonstrator because if you don't order with a demonstrator, you pay more for all of your products. So you can search for a demonstrator that lives near you so that you can hook yourself up with some of these awesome inks. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.